Hey, it's Shelly from Best Buy Canada's blog, and over the past 2 weeks, I've been testing out the Cuisinart AirFryer Toaster Oven. Although it looks like a toaster oven, this is one toaster oven that can do a lot more than just toast your bread or bagels. After using it for a few weeks, I've discovered that this is basically a second oven. It's just a second oven that sits on your countertop. This air fry toaster oven has an 1800-watt motor, so it gets very hot. It can go anywhere from about 90 degrees to 450 degrees. It has a high and low convection fan built in, as well as a variety of presets that you can see here. You can do everything from toast a bagel to bake a loaf of bread to broil for your pizza cheese or make a whole pizza, or you can also dehydrate fruit. One function I used the most was air fry, and there are a variety of air fry presets, so all you have to do is tap and put your food in and it will cook it. There's also a handy card underneath the toaster oven that you can pull out just as a reference check for what you're air frying. I air fried everything from French fries to sopapilla, which is a Mexican pastry, and everything turned out perfect. The only thing to keep in mind with this toaster oven is because it does get so hot so fast that you may have to tweak the temperature depending on what you're cooking. So I just tapped the preset to cook French fries, and it set it for 400 degrees for 15 minutes, but that was actually too much time and a little bit too hot for the amount of French fries I was cooking. So you can tweak the temperature, and when you do tweak the temperature, then everything turns out great. That's the drip pan right there, and you can tell that I've been making heavy use of this toaster oven. That's the air fry basket, so it has more than enough room to fit a family-sized meal. I have a family of 6, and everything I've cooked in there was more than enough for the entire family. I'm going to show you how I baked bread, a loaf of bread, in the Cuisinart AirFryer Toaster Oven. This is my standard bread dough recipe. I usually make half of this recipe into buns and the other half into a loaf of bread. This is my full-size loaf pan, and there is a loaf of bread that I've shaped. So I'm going to pop that in, and I'm going to hit the proof button. You tap proof, it will warm up your toaster oven so that it gives the optimal temperature for your bread to rise. As you can see, a full-size loaf pan fits perfectly in the internal compartment of the oven, and all you have to do is close the door and let it sit. This is what my loaf of bread looked like after about 45 minutes of proofing in the Cuisinart Air Fryer Toaster Oven. I was really impressed, actually. I have a hard time proofing bread in my kitchen because it does tend to stay cold. That's when I took it out of the toaster oven and I turned on the bake settings. So I normally cook this bread at 350 degrees for a half an hour. And in that half an hour, I will rotate the loaf of bread at least once just so that it's all perfectly even. With the Cuisinart toaster oven, all I had to do was turn it on and then watch it because I wasn't quite sure how long it would take. Turns out it didn't take that long actually. So what I was doing was just kind of hovering over it. At the 9-minute mark, I noticed that the top of the loaf of bread was getting quite brown, and at the 21-minute mark, that loaf of bread was done. I did reach in and brush it with butter so that I could have the same crust that I always do on my other bread. But once I did that, I just let it sit inside the toaster oven for another minute and I pulled it out. Honestly, I couldn't have asked for a more beautiful loaf of bread. Everything about it was perfect. It was perfectly baked. It was great to cut, and it was even better to eat. To test out the air fryer, I made so many things. I made French fries, I made chicken strips, I made poutine with those French fries. I also made sopapilla on Cinco de Mayo, and that is a Mexican pastry. And all you do is cut the pastry up into strips. Normally, you would throw it into a vat of boiling oil, but to save on the calories and the fat, I just threw it in the air fryer, and I thought I would just test it out and see what happens. Put it in the air fryer for 10 minutes at 325 degrees. That's what I started at, but I ended up actually changing the temperature midway, and I just realizing that they weren't puffing up fast enough and it wasn't hot enough, and I bumped it up to 400 degrees, and that's when everything really started cooking. No time at all, my little puff pastries had puffed right up, and then all I had to do was dip them in honey or jam, or you could just actually eat them like that. They almost have a shell that's cracker-like when they're really cool, but fresh out of the toaster oven, they were absolutely delicious. Ended up eating them with some blackberry jam and some honey from one of my hives. My kids also said that they were great stuffed with Nutella. I've been blown away by the things that you can do in this toaster oven, and it is literally the most versatile appliance that I own now. Now that I've used the air fryer, I can't imagine living without it. It makes everything crispy and delicious without added oil and fat. And baking a loaf of bread in this device is so amazing. That's it for my look at the Cuisinart Air Fryer Toaster Oven. You can see my full written review as well as other photos on Best Buy Canada's blog. Thanks for watching.